Hello everyone, welcome to next session of our SAP basis training. In this particular session, we will be discussing about Java processes. As you can see here, we have three layers of our SAP R3: presentation layer and application layer and database layer. Here we will see in the Java perspective how these layers are going to work. In general, the web browser is the presentation layer for Java perspective. So a web browser using a HTTP request, a Java request can be raised to your SAP systems. Basically, this is an interface for your application server Java. So whenever there is a web request is being created, there is a Java request being created, that request will be directly sent to the Java dispatcher. Similar to ABAP dispatcher, we also have Java dispatcher. The dispatcher will forward the process request to the server process. You can see the main difference between our ABAP application server and a Java application server. Here we have one server process. Server process basically a multi-threaded process which can process more than one request. In ABAP, it's a different case. You have work process. The work process can handle one work process at a time. That means one process at a time. Here we assign one server process. This server process is multi-threaded, so it can handle many requests in same time. That means it can handle more requests parallelly in the same time. So whenever there is a request comes from the end user or from the web browser, the dispatcher will dispatch the request to the server process, and the dispatcher and the server is together called node. Generally we call this node in Java. In general, all Java process including the database schema, it's called Java cluster. So it's little bit different from our ABAP stack. The Java stack is multi-threaded, as I said. So meaning to say one server process can handle many processes in parallel. Similar to our ABAP process, you also have buffer here, which will also be used in case of data needs to be saved temporarily. However, as usual, whenever you request any process which needs to be done by the server process, you also need to access the database schema in terms of reading, or it needs to be written something. These connections can be connected parallelly. That means multiple times the Java schema of the database via DB pool. Once the process is completed, then the processing result will be given back or dispatched to the web browser through the Java dispatcher. This is similar to our ABAP stack. As I said, similar to ABAP stack, we also have buffer. This will help you to speed up the user request. That means the data which is often used in the processing will be saved in the buffer. Once the data is not available in the buffer, then we will be requesting the database for the specific data. Next, let us see a simple method how the Java is processing a specific request. Let's assume you have a web request coming from the end user for the Java work process. In Java work process, you have different categories. You have manager as well as the services. So let's assume it's a HTTP request. Then the dispatcher will receive the request. So with the help of the cluster manager, this HTTP provider service will provide the specific service that will be given to the server. Then that will be given to web container. Let's assume this is some web request which needs to be processed, or this specific request also can have EJB beans in the in case, let's say, that means in case if this web request have some EJB beans, then it can be processed by EJB, or it could be also a servlets or a JSP application which could be processed in this specific stage where web container could able to take that kind of requests. However, if let's assume that this specific request need to have some data which needs to be retrieved or written to your database, in that case JDBC connector will be used in order to connect your database to retrieve the data or to update the database. Of course, the similar way we will also see whether this specific data which you are trying to retrieve from the database is already available, then this process also will be taken care by JDBC connection services. This is how the response to web service using HTTP is being done in the Java request process. This is a simple way to explain how the Java request process works. SAP introduced OpenSQL for Java for the developer to make the application supported by all database as well as the Java program can become portable, and it can run with all the database whichever you are going to use this particular applications. To make it easy, SAP used the OpenSQL in order to increase the performance, as well as you can use OpenSQL in order to identify some issues during your programmings. And the OpenSQL also use JB Enterprise Java Bean as well as JDO Java data objects. If developer use native SQL in programs, then it, as you know, this is a similar case in ABAP, you will lose the portability of the application which you are developing, and this could not be used with other database. And since you will not be also will be able to use the buffering technologies and table buffering, which is already available, built-in function available in SAP. So SAP recommend that you use OpenSQL statements in Java, which will make it more easy and to adaptability of your application also will become quite easy. As I said initially in ABAP as well, the native SQL statements still can be used in Java as well. If in case there is an unavoidable situation where we need to use a native SQL statement, then you still have the option to use native SQL statement. Next, let us see Java lock management. Similar to ABAP work process, in Java also we have lock management. Of course, whenever a user would like to edit some specific data, this specific data or the record needs to be locked. The application developer, of course, has to develop or of course has to use the services in order to lock the specific record. So the Java lock mechanism that the enqueue is managed centrally. So whenever you use the enqueue request, or whenever you request enqueue, the specific record will be locked for this user explicitly. Then the user will be able to make necessary changes. Once the changes are done, then you will be able to release the request. Similar to ABAP stack, Java also have an exclusive enqueue services. The enqueue services can be called by the application whenever it is necessary. With this, we are coming to end of this particular session. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next session. Bye bye.